In terms of selling,
Yeah.
I do nearly all of my selling by delivery. So I deliver to Bridlington and to Driffield and all the surrounding areas. But some people do actually come and pick up orders from here. And I also have a stall outside, and I do supply some things to Arthur Street Trading,
Is Arthur Street the only wholesale supplying that you do?
I suppose at the moment, yes. Yeah. I do supply a shop in Bridlington, but that's only with salads.
Right, yeah.
I used to supply Nut and Nettle, a restaurant in Bridlington, but they don't order from us anymore. The other things that I do is I produce quite a lot of fresh herbs, and I also grow herbs and sell them. So I sell plants in pots.
Yeah.
So that's what all of this is here. This is all plants that I raise from seed and cuttings. They're all herbs or useful plants in one way or another. So not just ordinary garden plants. And I sell these to my veg customers, but also to any passing trade. This is the packing shed, so a lot of our produce freshly harvested in here.
Yeah.
Might be a nice picture, look.
Certainly will.
Yeah?
So, I know Arthur Street are supplying from external suppliers, specifically and particularly you. Are you bringing in supplies from other suppliers?
Yeah, I supply Arthur Street with their whole foods and any surplus that I've got, which is usually salads.
Yeah.
But both Arthur Street and we have supplies from Organic Pantry. So that's an organic wholesaler.
Yeah.
And I get stuff from Jenny Webb, another local producer. She brings tomatoes. But obviously the lemons, not locally grown, so that's from Pantry.
Yeah.
But the chard, the apples, the beans, the plums, spring onions, courgettes, marrows, cherry tomatoes, they're all mine.
Yeah. So
and the potatoes.
And so do you only have one other
for veg
local,
and fruit, yes.
Yeah, local organic supplier, yeah. As in
there is only one.
Yes.
Who supplies us in this area. So they've got a kind of monopoly of organic produce in this area for wholesaling.
And then in terms of sales, is that mainly veg boxes?
Well, people can buy veg, fruit, herbs, whole foods from me. So some people, I publish a list every week. Some people just order from the list. And then some people just say, oh, send me an £8 box or a £12 box. But my boxes are very flexible. I don't do a standard box. I do tailor-made boxes for each individual customer.
Right.
So I would take account of how many people there are in the house, whether they like salad, whether they're vegetarian or not, to kind of judge what things they would like and what things they wouldn't like. So, whereas Arthur Street, they do standard boxes. My system's a lot kind of more complicated, but it does offer a service to a customer. Means that they can get exactly what they want. Yeah. That's a bed of sage that you've just...
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that I specialise in is mixed salad. So some of the things that are growing here, like the French sorrel and the chives, they're going in the salads. Then any other space, I've got lots of herbs growing here, beans as well. So it's always buzzing with insects. I aim for biodiversity as much as possible. So I've got flowers and herbs and veg all mixed up. But it also means when people come to buy their herbs, their herb plants, I can show them the plants actually growing. and then they can see how big they are and how they do in different places and things like that. And then this is a little orchard. So I grow quite a lot of soft fruit. And when I have plenty of that, I would supply that to Arthur Street as well. So this is gooseberries, plum tree, apple trees. They are just, to me, starting to look like they're really suffering now from the drought. And then this is the greenhouse, so this is where I raise all the plants and the herb plants and everything before they go out. I'm just going to water these beans because so this is where I raise all the plants before they go out into the garden. Obviously not, most things are direct sown, but some things have to be raised in the greenhouse. And to be honest, this last few weeks it's been a nightmare because it's so hot. Even watering everything once a day is hardly enough. And there's so many other things to do, sometimes you just forget about it. Anyway, that'll keep it alive until I manage to come back, hopefully. I also have some heat in this greenhouse so I can raise things early.
Yeah.
But it's under it's soil warming cables that are underneath all this stuff. So it's only heating the bit that I need. So it's very, very efficient. And here is a different type of compost. We have plenty of hedges and woody things that need cutting down and shredding, and we shred that down and put it in these big heaps, and then when that's rotted down, well, that one's very dry and you can't really see it very well, but I'll show you over here. The woody material rots down, it takes a year or two, and then I sieve it and I end up with this stuff, which is basically, this is my peat substitute. Right. So that I use as the foundation of my potting compost. So I make my own potting compost, and I should have shown you that in the greenhouse. Let's just go back. So that's the basis of it, but I also add various other composts, including leaf mould and worm compost, some organic fertiliser, some lime, and wood ash as well. And then I end up with, and I add sand, so I end up with that, which is my potting compost. So all of my plants are raised in potting compost, which is produced on my own holding. So I'm not buying in any peat.
Yes.
So it's all sustainable, which is great, but it's a lot of work to do it. So that's my woody compost. This is a worm compost. You can see that this is sort of halfway to making decent worm compost. So again, it's another ingredient that I use in the potting compost. And then I have the polytunnels, so that extends the season, you know, in the spring and the autumn.
Yeah. How much of an extension do you get from using?
Well, it means, for instance, like I use them a lot for the salads. It means I can produce salads all the year round. It means that I can put those long season things in, can get them going early, like tomatoes and things like that. And it means that you can overwinter things that would otherwise die. But of course you also get the increased heat, so things grow faster And when it comes to things like salads, because they're undercover and they just grow in a more tender way, because they're not buffeted by the wind all the time. I do have a rotation in each of the polytunnels, so you don't have the same crop growing in the same place each year.
Yeah.
And well, I'll show you some of the salad things that I use. Yeah, that's, for instance, this fennel that goes in the salad. So there, look, fennel plant growing. This is a plant called buckshorn plantain. Right, that goes in the salad. This is red vein sorrel. This is chard. Again, chard, that would go in a salad. That's endive. Parsley. Again, I would put parsley in the salad. My salads at the moment are suffering a bit because all the brassicas have been eaten by flea beetle. So I'm having to do the salads without the brassicas. So lots of different herbs. This is French sorrel. That goes in the salad as well. And I also put in my salads calendula flower, which is edible. So the salads are always quite pretty as well. This is mostly lettuce, but as you can see, a lot of it's bolted. We've just planted up some of this yesterday, so it's looking a bit sorry for itself. Hopefully it'll pick up.
Is that bolting because of the heat, or was it just the time of season?
It's partly the heat, but I mean they just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is another one that I grow. This is orac. So I would use bits of that in the salad as well. So I aim to grow lots of sort of unusual things. Oh, this one. This is a cut and come again celery. It's a type of celery.
It's a variety of celery, not...
Yeah. So you don't grow it for the white stalk. It makes a plant and you can just use this as cut and come again.
Right, it's not the one that's like parsnip rooted, is it just celery?
Just celery, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
celery
look
leaf, yeah.
Yeah, because I like using celery for stock.
So here we've got courgettes and things on this side and French beans growing here.
Courgette, I had an interesting one the other day where someone was offering to give away veg, and they said yes, as long as it's not courgette.
Yeah, if you got courgettes, then either you've got too many or too little. Yeah.
So and are they just out of interest? Are they a popular veg?
I wouldn't say they're the most popular, but yeah, no, we sell.
They're a popular veg.
Yeah, we sell quite a lot. Yeah. More compost heaps here. Yeah. That's just a sort of standard garden compost. Mm-hmm. That all gets recycled and goes back onto. So those big sacks back there, which I didn't point out to you, the builder's sacks. That was completed compost. So every time I'm planting something new, I'll put some compost down. Mm-hmm. We also, as you can see here, we mulch whatever we can. So all underneath these bean plants, they're all mulched. That's to sort of protect from too much moisture loss. And it's all recycling everything back into. So what I'm doing is a lot about soil regeneration as well. And one of the techniques that we're using is all of the areas where we don't grow anything, like the grass paths, they all have lots of clover in them. That's fixing nitrogen. So when we cut the grass, we use the grass as a mulch on the crops, and that all gets then recycled back into. So it's almost like this is our kind of fallow area, but we're taking the nutrients off that and putting it on our growing area. And again, that's going to kind of enrich the soil.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. That heap here is actually, this is a kind of compost that I make just from sedge, juncus and nettles, because it makes a fibrous compost.
Right, yes.
And that balances quite well the woody material that I use.
So are you making any feeds, like liquid feeds for the
I'll show you
green
that,
fields?
yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is my outdoor growing area.
Yeah.
It's not brilliant soil. That's why I've got it all in raised beds.
Right.
It makes it much easier to manage. And you see that I have on the paths, that's the shredded woody material. So that goes on the paths. And then every 2 or 3 years, after that's been well trodden down and composted even more, that then gets thrown onto the beds and then new stuff gets put down.
Yeah.
So again, that's recycling everything back into the soil and hopefully building up soil carbon, which is what soil regeneration is all about.
Right.
Getting some more carbon into the soil, which is actually potentially taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere.
And what kind of soil do you have here then?
It's not particularly good soil. So even in my growing areas, I also mix up with flowers and herbs and things to bring in the beneficial insects and, to increase biodiversity. So I have a lot of soft fruits as well.
So in terms of the herbs that or the herbs and salad things that you're
Yeah.
going into the salads,
Yeah.
are the outdoor herbs going to the salads as well?
Sometimes, yeah, I
Sometimes.
would use some of that. There's French sorrel here,
Yeah.
there's chard, there's parsley. I often grow outdoor rocket and things like that. But this year it's just been hopeless because of the flea beetle.
Yeah.
You can see with the fruit bushes, they're all mulched with cardboard and whatever else I can lay my hands on. Partly to stop the weeds, but also to build up the soil carbon in the end. This is the liquid feed that I
Yeah.
make. That is the comfrey plant.
Yeah.
So that's what we harvest. Because the comfrey plant is good because it's very low fibre. So it decomposes to a liquid.
Yeah.
There's no residue. And also it has incredibly strong deep tap roots. So it's actually bringing minerals up from the subsoil. So it's kind of mining bits that you can't otherwise reach. That's why it's high in potash. And it's a really, really tough plant. So it can stand being cut 3 times a year. It won't die. So those are the qualities that you need to make a good liquid feed. You can make a liquid feed out of nettles, but nettles are the opposite. They're very fibrous. So if you make a feed out of nettles, you have to add water. Whereas with comfrey, you just put it into the container and weight it down. Make sure it's airtight. And you have a hole at the bottom. And your liquid drips into there. We use a stick in the hole to keep the hole open. Otherwise it tends to sort of block up.
Yeah.
So that's the comfrey liquid, which we use that for feeding tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that. But I also sell it. So I've built up a good trade for it over the last 30 years. And we sell quite a lot of it. Yeah. Can you hear it dripping?
Oh, I can as well.
Yeah. We do get some liquid off the worm compost as well.
Yeah.
And that's a good nitrogen feed as well. We actually had a sparrowhawk trapped in there a couple of weeks ago.
Oh no.
And I had to catch it and free it from the mesh and release it.
Yikes.
It's incredible. Because their claws are so big,
Yeah.
if they get latched onto some mesh like that,
Yeah. Of course.
they can't free themselves. So I kind of extricated it from the mesh And then, of course, me and the sparrowhawk, we were inside the enclosure. So we both had to get out. And it just lay there for a bit, and I picked it up and turned it the right way up and put it on my hand, and eventually it flew off.
Wow.
Amazing. The other thing that we have a lot is grass snakes.
Oh, right.
We find grass snakes in the compost heaps, and they are laying their eggs in the compost heaps. We have to be careful when we dig out a compost heap. If we find the eggs, we put them into the next compost heap, and it was quite nice. The last compost heap that I dug out, I found loads of these eggs, but they were all empty.
So you know that they're
So
surviving and thriving because of the method. Yes.
And I mean, as you see, we've got compost heaps everywhere, so everything possible gets recycled. Either we put it in the compost heap or we use it as a mulch on top of things. So all the nutrients are being recycled as much as possible.
So come autumn and then into winter, what is the difference in terms of how much of your veg grown here ends up in the veg boxes?
In the summer, it's a good proportion of what I sell, maybe not 50%, but not far off, will be my own stuff. But in winter, you're down to leeks if you have them, artichokes. I do still manage to do the salads, but that's kind of about it. Apples if I manage to keep them for storage. So it's very seasonal. I can't really see any way around that.
No.
Not without being much, you see, I mean, you can see what I'm doing is really quite small scale. If you're bigger scale, you've maybe got the facilities for keeping things. For instance, I don't grow carrots. I don't grow onions. I don't grow those staples.
Is there a reason why you don't grow staples?
Well, I do grow potatoes now. I didn't used to, but I grow potatoes now because it's not all that much work once you get them in.
Yeah.
I don't grow onions because they never do well here. I don't grow carrots, it's a bit risky, and because other people can grow fields full of carrots. But I do grow parsnips because I find the parsnips, if I buy them in, they don't keep for very long and they're often not very good quality. So if I've got my own, and I grow beetroot, I grow chard, because again, if you buy chard in, it's a leafy thing, it doesn't travel well. It's not a good quality for the customer. Whereas if you grow your own, like I've picked chard today, that'll go in the boxes tomorrow, so it'll be fresh. I don't know how I make my decisions really. It's by what will grow, it's by what will add value to the customer. And of course, when you're growing on a small scale, it's value as well. I mean, like I grow a lot of French beans, which farmers don't tend to do. I mean, a farmer can grow a field full of carrots, can't he? And do it in a mechanised way. But beans, it's a different proposition. So I'm then adding in something that otherwise people probably wouldn't be able to have.
Yeah, and do you find that, again, beans are one of those things that don't actually, fresh French beans, don't actually keep that well?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No. I mean, at other times I'm often buying in French beans and they come from Spain and they're not always picked at the right time. They're over mature. They've been kept too long, so they're dry and not very nice. It's a really big problem. The whole kind of supply chain for vegetables is not easy. And I don't know whether for the organic supply chain suffers because obviously it's much, much less than the conventional, and therefore there's possibly less refrigeration, and so therefore there could be more quality issues. Yeah.
Although to be fair, I won't buy beans from a supermarket under any circumstances because they're never good enough, even if they've been shipped in express delivery. Yeah. Because they are again something that needs to be like a couple of days old maximum, and they are much older than that. So in terms of that supply chain, organic and local, really, if it's genuinely local and small scale, whether it's organic or not, does that mean that literally it has to be just picked and delivered? There's nothing in between that can retard the ripening and the degeneration of the veggies there?
Well, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? If something is locally grown, harvested the day before you get it, the quality is just going to be so much more than something that's been bought in. But there just isn't enough of it. Of organic veg that's being supplied in this area. As far as I know, there's an operation at Frith Farm in Beverley. There's Rise, there's me, and there's Jenny at Foston. And we're all getting old. And where it's going to be in 10 years' time, I don't know. I have a bet with Graham sometimes how long we're going to last. Because he's finding it all very hard work.
Yes, well, him being one of my contemporaries, I know exactly what you mean.
There's a lady here, Debbie, wanting to buy some seeds. Are you coming down? But
I'm coming.
I want to know how much the big pots are.
Yeah, okay, I'm coming. Yeah. Is that okay, Darren?
That was absolutely amazing.